to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for attending the July board meeting. I know we're in the middle of the day. We kind of do this so that we can get a board retreat in once a year with the board to talk about all kinds of things with the board and try to set the direction for the upcoming school year. Mr. Grenier is not able to join us in person, but he is here by phone. And so he is listening in, and then we'll chime in when we come to votes. You'll hear him say aye if he wants to vote. If we do not hear him, we'll count him absent, but you'll see, I think he'll chime in and say aye for us. So I just want the community to be aware of that. I've already given you the instructions, the new instruction on how we're going to handle policy C-140P with the instruction of signing up on the sheet. That will be the new tradition of the board, that you'll have to sign up on that sheet. I'll pick up that clipboard, I'll see if I can read the names, and then we'll go from there on that. In the standing tradition, and I'm going to carry this tradition forward, that we're going to read the mission and vision statement of the district so that we stay focused on why we're here. The mission of the Cameron-Irwin School District is to educate and empower our students to reach their full potential. And the vision of the district is to offer an exceptional educational experience. I want to just make a couple other comments. I know that nationally, we've had it's been kind of trying last week nationally, and I want to comment to the community how much I appreciate that we have kept this boardroom civil and safe. And that's the expectation we have going forward, is to be civil with one another and to practice safety at all times. So I appreciate our community and the support in that, and how we've handled ourselves in the past months. First I want to ask the board, you've been presented with the agenda. Is there any concerns, corrections, or changes that anybody wants to make to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Lockridge.
Second.
Second by Ms. Goodwin-Clark. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, we have 7 in favor, none opposed. So that motion passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Did anybody have any questions, concerns, or anything about the consent agenda as presented?
I just always love seeing all the kids that go to summer school on the, and all the, I was trying to count, and I think I stopped counting at almost 300. So I got attendance awards or incentives, so I thought that was pretty neat.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Goodwin-Clark, second by Mr. Murphy. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Now we've reached the portion, and we got there quick today, where the residents of the district have requested to address the board about governance and operations of the district by placing an item on the agenda in accordance with our policy and the Missouri State statute. This afternoon, we have one individual who has requested to have topics placed on the agenda. And as the tradition has been in the past, as you approach the podium, please introduce yourself for the record, confirm that you're a resident of the district. We ask that you stay on topic, because that's what we have noticed the public, so that we can be in compliance with the Missouri Sunshine Law. We will be giving you 5 minutes like we do. I also ask that any remarks specifically about personnel or about students, consider making those remarks to us in closed session. And then to the audience, and I probably don't need to say this today, but we remain quiet so that the board can hear their statements, and we take this time seriously. This is our time to listen to our constituents, so go ahead.
Before I begin, can I confirm, please, that Mr. Grenier is able to hear me?
Scotty, are you able to hear
Apparently not.
Mr. Gilbert?
Yes.
Okay, you heard me ask if you can hear me?
He's a little faint, but I can hear you.
Jackie, could you pass that down to the end there?
Okay, I am Heath Gilbert. I am here to speak to you about election law violations. The district allowed tax dollars to be spent in support of a single board candidate. It also spent dollars in a manner that could have been intended to impact the election. The first involves 2 staff members. I have emailed details to the board. The second instance occurred at the school board meeting when Jackie was permitted to make a campaign speech for her re-election. Jackie, you said, quote, "First of all, if I could ask, how many of you are teachers here tonight?" End quote. While looking only at the group of teachers, you said, "I also, quote, I also want to say that April 2nd is election day, and I encourage all of you who are registered to vote to go out and vote. And I would also encourage you to ask yourselves, what do you want to see on your school board? Do you want to see people who have a long track record of supporting your students, their teachers and staff? Or do you want people on your board who are negative and want nothing good for the school?" There was more. Jackie, you also took advantage of your position and made a campaign speech at a board meeting. You know the district cannot spend tax dollars to support a single candidate or to give preferential treatment to candidates. Considering staff are paid to be at board meetings, you and everyone at the table with you that night allowed tax dollars to be used to support your bid for re-election. Pam, you sat there and allowed her speech. At the end of the meeting, Landi asked for the same opportunity. You said no. That is preferential treatment. Page 2 of the packet that you have received in your email now is a letter from Pam where she told me in February the district is prohibited by law from supporting a single candidate. You knew Jackie was wrong and said nothing. The third instance involves a document titled Cameron School District Book Response. Pam, you opened that letter to the public by using a small portion of a long email to make the public believe you had been physically threatened. You knew I was referring to the videos I published to social media where I tagged the school district and read the abhorrent content from the smut books being provided to kids. It was a figure of speech. You took advantage of that letter to mischaracterize my intent and to garner support of the district's preferred candidates. A few weeks after you received that email, I walked into Cameron Market here in town and saw you standing up near the registers. You initiated a polite, consensual conversation and wished me a good morning. People don't initiate polite conversations with folks they believe threaten them. Page 3, 4, and 5 of the documents I provided show that you didn't report the threat to any law enforcement agency. Why mention it in that letter if you didn't believe it? To sway public opinion. Pages 6 through 10 show that you and the district spent tax dollars getting attorneys to help you draft that letter. It shows the district knew. The record shows the district initially tried to withhold those documents. Only when I insisted you provide redacted documents, as you have done dozens of times previously, did the district provide that proof. The district tried to hide that you spent money on attorneys. Page 11 through 14 show that everyone sitting at this table, with the exception of Mr. Murphy, was made aware in advance of the letter. You all knew the lawyers had been involved. Records indicate additional staff were directed to help disseminate that document. You coordinated all of this with staff who were on the clock and directed them to use district resources to accomplish that task. It's a violation of law. The last page is a statement from Pam to the entire board. You explained the letter to them by saying several board members wanted you to make a public statement about the books. Did any of you ask questions about the timing of the letter, its perceived intent, and its contents? Pam ignored the book issue for a year and suddenly decides 1 month before the election it's time to say something. Most elections are decided by one of 2 factors. The outcome of an election is based on either the personalities of those that are involved or on the issues. Your letter appears to be calculated to sway the public's opinion on both fronts to the benefit of the district. Thank you.
Mr. Gilbert,
Yes, ma'am.
I have couple statements for clarification. I want the community to know that staff are not paid to attend board meetings. So I want to clarify that statement. I think that statement was made, but staff, teachers, and those individuals do not get paid to attend board meetings. They are salaried, and so they don't get an extra money to attend board meetings. Board members are also not paid to attend board meetings.
That's why I said staff
So
members.
I want the community to know. I have that email, Mr. Gilbert, that you sent here, and so I just want to clarify. What was your intent with the use of the word bludgeon?
It was a figure of speech intending that I would again make another video where I read the content of the book that you won't do anything about and to share it with the public.
Okay.
It was a figure of speech.
Figure-
I should have done better with it, admittedly. I see it now the way that it could possibly be perceived. But you didn't make a report, so clearly you truly didn't believe that it was a threat. You engaged in conversation with me. I was walking by. You didn't have to start a conversation. You started a conversation and greeted me. Clearly you didn't truly believe that I was a threat to you. Folks, don't walk around
Miss-
and engage in conversation if they're threatened. Additionally, because you addressed me, I'm going to address the other part that you said. If the staff members are required by contract as a condition of their employment to be here for this meeting, and Ms. Walker, for example, I know I'm not supposed to say the name, but the secretary, she has to be here. She gets financial compensation for being here. So your statement is inaccurate when you say board members aren't paid to be here. She is compensated for being here to be the secretary for this body. She's being paid.
She's not a board member, sir, so, I mean, she is.
She is the secretary for the Board of Education. She is financially compensated to be
Hourly, or
here.
is she salaried? Salary.
It's both.
Both, okay.
Both.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. There was one other thing that I wanted
Yes,
to
ma'am.
ask. So, just want to clarify for the public.
Yes.
My letter was written because we are to represent every patron in the district. And I had been approached that people were confused because there was a narrative going around town that we had done nothing for the book issue. And
Okay.
so it was my response, and as I stated to the board in that email, that it is our requirement by that policy to make sure that we clear up rumors floating around. So it was due diligent on my part to make sure that we had a clear notice of record of what the board had done in response. What things has the board done to address your concern about the book issue?
What thing has the board done?
What steps has the board taken to address your concern?
Very few. Very few. And my complaint is what you are not doing. You're not inventorying the libraries to see what other books are in there. You're depending upon the community to find them for you. When we find them, there is no, even though policy required an administrative procedure to be created for the review of those books, it was never created. When I pointed out to the board multiple times that the administrative procedure does not exist, because I asked for it in the Sunshine Law, y'all ignored it. The administrative procedure, as the part of the policy, IIACR1 that you approved, you directed him in December to create an administrative procedure. It never existed. The books were being reviewed without the administrative procedure being in place, which was a violation of policy. You knew about it because I told you, and you all ignored it.
So
There
to the-
still has not
thank-
been a statement by, you asked me the question. There has not been a statement by the Board of Education what they deem to be appropriate to be in the library. Nobody knows. An investigation truly has not been done. The last series of pictures that we sent to you that contain images of sexual organs, the police report was never generated by this district. The prosecuting attorney has not received a police report of any kind about those books. Those books are still sitting up here for review. They're being pushed to the bottom of the pile because the images are in them. They're being ignored. Those should have been the ones on the top. The ones that potentially violated the law should have been the first one to be reviewed. The steps that this body has taken are minimal.
So to the public, I want to tell you that I can provide this letter once again to clarify that of the numerous steps that the district did take to address Mr. Gilbert's concern. That was the whole purpose of putting this letter out in the first place, to go methodically through the steps of what the district has done. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
Yes, I have a question.
It's in regard to the campaign speech that you said that I committed during a board meeting. So my question is, where was I sitting at that board meeting? On the stage? What side of the stage?
I believe you were on the left side.
Okay, the group of people, the teachers that you're...
You were sitting on my left side. I believe it would be on your
Okay.
right side.
So the group of people that you were telling everyone here that I was looking at and speaking directly to, which was the teacher group, was right in front of me, correct? If you were right in front of
Largely,
me,
yes,
I would be
it-
looking at you. If you were in front of me, if you were sitting in front of me, I would be looking at you. So the fact that the time span that I was looking at these people and not everyone in general, you don't like. I
It has nothing
have
to do
another
with like or
question for you. I have another question for you. So we
Wait a minute,
videotaped,
you didn't ask a question yet. You're
Yes, I
making a
did.
speech.
I said, where was I?
Okay.
You answered that question.
Okay.
So my next question is, we videotape, or people in the community videotape these meetings,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. Yes.
And that was videotaped as well, correct?
Correct.
So I as a board member, along with other board members, are speaking not only to those who are able to come to a board meeting, but for everyone out there in the community who's listening, correct?
Sure.
Right. So
It's a public
I am
meeting.
not speaking directly to a group of teachers telling them to vote. I, as a board member, encourage everyone to go out and vote, whether it's their school board election, whether it's their general election. It is go out and vote and ask yourself a simple question: what do you want representing your school board? There is nothing in a campaign speech. I never said I'm the best. I never said anything about me whatsoever. So I disagree completely with the way that you look at that. And as you had said to Mrs. Ice regarding the bludgeoning, and you said, I can see how you could see that. Well, I can see how you could see that too. But the general population, I would argue, does not see it the way you see it.
Were other candidates for the board allowed the opportunity to make any type of an address to the community as a whole during the board meeting, or was it only
These
you?
were under board member comments.
Correct, and it's not appropriate.
That's right. He is
It's
not a board
appropriate.
member, and he's not a board member. It was under board member comments, and all I said was go out and vote and ask yourself what you want. So in November, when we go to vote, I'll be the same way. What do you want for this country? Is there anything wrong with asking that question of the community?
Because you
Is there
were one-
anything wrong?
I'm
asking your question.
I'm answering your question. Because you are a candidate, or then a candidate, yes, it is wrong. It is unethical for you to sit there, and you made the argument, do you want those that want nothing good for the school district, or do you want somebody that's qualified to
say
do
that
it?
for the general
Out of the-
election as
I'm
well.
not done, please don't interrupt me. Of the 6 people that were running, you are the only one that has a track record that you referred to in that address. There is nobody else out of the other 6 members that have a track record of serving on the board. You're the only one.
We will agree to disagree. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple other points for clarification. I did receive that email from Mr. Gilbert where he used the word bludgeon. And in my opening statement of my letter, I did say, well, I believe this rhetoric was a bit over the top. So I did interpret his statements as aggressive, flamboyant rhetoric. Although I did have some conversations with law enforcement, but I opted not to file a police report. And Mr. Gilbert confirmed that I had interpreted it correctly. If I had interpreted it incorrectly, we would be having a different conversation right now. I just think it was over the top rhetoric. So I do, like I said, I want the community to know that the board did take action. And there is a perception difference, I think, here. I think there's what the board can do as we represent the entire community versus what one individual board member can do versus what we can do as a whole. And so we follow policy, and these are the steps that we took. So I just want to be very clear with the community. There are steps that we have taken, and I wanted to clear that up ethically because it was talked about ethically. I know there was some inclination in his statement that my email with the attorneys, I do contact, just so the community is very clear, I contact the attorney frequently. We were in a lawsuit from last summer through January with individuals in this community. that kind of kept me from even speaking anything without approaching and talking to an attorney. This email was sent to me right after that lawsuit was settled. So I to this day still consult our legal counsel so that I represent the district well. So he is not wrong when he says there are redacted documents, but I think that the rest of the community would ask that I do that on their behalf because I represent every taxpayer in the district. And it is not my intent to misstep when I'm representing the board or every taxpayer in the district. So Mr. Gilbert will have to agree to disagree on some things, but I do want you to know ethically, the board has heard your concern, and we took steps.
Will you share what those steps are?
I will provide you that letter once again.
What letter?
We took steps to address his concern, and we represent every taxpayer. And so that is why when we came to this subject, the board reviewed this ethically and went, what can we do in our community? Because we represent kids from families with many value structures, not just one side. And we have to come up with a policy that we can represent every student in. And that's how we came up with that policy, so that we could represent every family. And then we finally came to the parents of those individual students. We gave them opportunity to speak into what their kids have access to, and they will have the final say. And that's how the board diligently and succinctly worked on updating that policy. So we're going to get to that later. I think in the agenda we're going to talk about some stuff, but parents this year as well, you will have access to the library system. You will also have access to a form where students, you can restrict things. You can restrict things that we've already pulled and restricted. You can give your student access to everything. And we'll talk about that later in the meeting. But ethically, I want the community to know that it is the board's responsibility to represent every taxpayer. And if we have taxpayers asking questions, which I did, and they had come up and said, I'm hearing you've done nothing. And I said, I think it's time once again to remind the community that we have done something. So,
It's not very noticeable.
Dr. Robinson, I do want to ask that we maybe do some in-service about ballot issues and elections so that we don't misstep. It is complicated, and I want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence on election and ballot issues from a public entity. It's a lot more complicated than one might think. I was thinking this morning that managing a public entity is kind of like trying to juggle every word in the English language dictionary. And there's no way we can know everything. You know, the stipulation to be a board member is 24 and live in the district 1 year, and you come in and try to manage this. And so I'm not saying that we're not learning sometimes. I mean, I'm constantly learning. I'll be learning till the last day that whenever I give up my time of service. So if we can maybe do a little in-service on that just to make sure that we refresh communication with staff and even the board about how that works, that might be beneficial. So,
Ms. Ice, will that include community engagement sessions?
sir, I'm sorry, you're not on the agenda to speak, but we can talk afterwards, or you can send me an email.
Oh, I'll catch you afterward. Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on, I think that covered all of that. Moving on, I'm going to move on to, Mr. Murphy, would you hand me the clipboard, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have, it's time for items for consideration and comments for items for consideration. Mr. Landi would like to come and speak about the school lunch, which would be item B.
Correct.
So,
Thank you. Dan Landi, I live in the district. Okay.
I'll
Very
start
good.
when you start.
I'll start with a prayer, please. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. School prices are too high. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Landi. Moving on down.
I was signed up to address the board too.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gilbert, I don't see your name on here.
You removed it from the clipboard.
Here, I'll let you look at what I have here.
I understand it was removed from the clipboard. I signed the clipboard when it was sitting out in the hall. I put down all,
From now on, Mr. Gilbert, there does look like a mark underneath Mr. Landi's name. So if you could just go ahead and fill out your own line. I'll go ahead and let you this time speak
okay.
for 3 minutes.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
I do want your name and your address and the item that you will be speaking about, please. And we won't start until you're ready.
I'm ready to go.
No, I'm going to go ahead and let you fill that
I'm not
out.
going to fill it out.
Okay, then I'll ask you to sit down according to policy.
I'm asking you to accommodate me and allow me to speak, as is my right.
Are you asking me to break policy?
Yes.
You are asking me to break policy?
Yeah, I'm asking you to follow law. Yes.
So you're not able to fill out the form?
Mrs. Ice, are you willing to allow me to speak or not?
Sir, the policy states that you will fill out the sheet.
I'm aware of what
And I
the
was
policy
very-
states.
That's why I came in here before the meeting even started and gave instruction.
I heard your instructions.
And so you're asking me to break policy?
No, I'm asking you to follow the law.
Okay, so what law would that be?
I'm not willing to discuss that in public.
Okay, so I'm supposed to provide you special treatment?
No, you're supposed to follow the law.
Did you say your name was on here
I thought you
before?
said you-
I
you
said I
signed.
signed up. I didn't say my name was on there. I said I signed up.
How did you sign up?
I put an X.
Is that your signature?
That is my signature.
Okay, will you go ahead and put the X in, and I will note that
I already put the X.
it's underneath someone else's name.
They wrote over the top of mine.
Okay,
Will you allow me to speak or not, Mrs.
I'm
Ice?
going to ask you to sit down.
Perfect.
To anyone that has any comments that they would like to present to the board that wasn't able to speak today, you're welcome to send those comments to us via email. So that is another way to speak to the board. So anytime that you are not allowed to speak or you don't want to speak in the boardroom, there's other avenues that you can address the board. So always remember that. Thank you. Well, next up is our board member comments. We got through the open portion of our meeting quickly this afternoon.
We still got the items for consideration.
Oh, look, I skipped right over those. Back up. We're going to back up, and we're going to go to, thank you, we're going to go to items for consideration. And Dr. Robinson, will you talk to us about the bus schedule?
Yeah, so what I found there is a list of what would be pretty much preliminary routes for this school year. We usually do this every year, is kind of put our preliminary routes. Now, obviously, we don't have every student enrolled, and I'm sure open house will have a few students show up that we had no idea about. And so, but this is for the most part a preliminary bus route schedule for all of our buses, and just asking for approval for the bus routes. Like I said, well, I'm most likely we'll have to do some tweaking, but anyways, this is our preliminary bus routes for 2024-25.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Peck, second by Ms. Lockridge. Can Scotty hear us?
Scotty, can you hear us?
Yes.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Sorry about skipping those.
No, no, you're fine.
Next, we're moving on to lunch prices.
Yeah, I will go over this chart a little bit. This is actually what Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed, or DESE, actually provides us. We actually put in our numbers from this year, and actually they look at preceding year, this year, and that gives us our total for this year. So currently our lunch prices, the weighted average would be $2.41 is what our weighted average was. The 68 cents you see kind of here where I'm circling, that would be kind of based on the year before of what we could add to that. Almost every year, it's a catch-up game. I'm explaining this a little bit more in detail just so you know. It's a catch-up game because according to DESE, this should be our lunch price is $3.40. Now, that's a long way from where we're at right now at our average is $2.41, high schoolers and middle schoolers are paying $2.55. The problem with this is this number, this $3.40 moves every year because that's based on what they give us back in commodities, that's based on what they pay us back for free lunches, reduced lunches, those different things. So they want that to be as close to equal as possible. Almost every year we're having to do a 10-cent increase. This year we are asking for a 20-cent increase, which would make, effectively you're adding 20 cents to the price. So high school and middle school lunches would go to $2.75, and Parkview and CIS lunches would go to $2.35 for those. And like I said, there's not a lot of, and you can see, I'm sorry, $2.45 down there below. You can see the new estimates down there. That actually takes our weighted price average to $2.61, which is still almost 80 cents below where they would actually like us to be. I'm not going to disagree that these are starting to get on the high side, but our food costs have went up dramatically. I mean, just even our last milk bid, that's almost a nickel more a milk carton, and you're using 1,000 of those a day. that starts to add up pretty quickly. So, but this is the best way we know how. I think we're kind of reaching a point of, I don't want to say a point of no return, but I think we're getting to a point if you have 3 people in your family and you have to spend $10 for lunch every day, not including breakfast. I do think it's probably getting expensive, but we're the minimum have to do 10 cents. I think we do need to get 20 to get closer to that number, or else we're never going to get closer like they want us to. So.
Do we still have a problem with people not filling out the free and reduced paperwork?
We've had more of a problem since COVID. When the government was pretty much funding breakfast and lunch for everybody and then trying to get back on that cycle. And then a lot of the paperwork has changed, so people that were eligible for free and reduced are no longer eligible anymore. Those guidelines have got a little tighter, a little bit. The salary ranges have went higher on that, so that's dropped more people out, which I think is what I'm talking about. It's becoming harder and harder for a family that may be on the fringe to be able to do those things. And so that is something we're looking at. With our new enrollment, we believe we're going to be able to have the free and reduced application a part of that so that we can get more of that. And then we've also, Dr. Utek, probably more so than I, has really worked on a process so that we can try to get, if families need that extra help, how we can do that and who we'll start with. Because as we go back later in the finance part, we've got a lot of, I wouldn't say a big portion, but a portion of our why we're in the hole in food service is because we're not getting bills paid. So,
is there any way, just throwing an idea out, but is there any way to kind of offset that for parents if maybe we looked at what we charge our kids who can drive and park in the parking lot? Could we reduce that a bit to kind of offset some of this, maybe help families out in that way? Just an idea.
I think something we could look at. I mean, we try to keep our fees at a minimum. I mean, that's the goal of public education, is free and appropriate education. And then even when it comes to supplies and things like that, we try to keep those things at a minimum. We don't want, we are supposed to be offering free and appropriate education. So I think that's something we can look at, is if we can do other things. But like I said, this isn't just a number that we willy-nilly come up with. Like I said, the 20 cents is to get us closer to the 340. We've done 10 cents almost every year I've probably been here. We've had to go up at least 10 cents. And like I said, what makes it difficult is that 340 next year can be 350, 355. And then we're having to do another increase to try to continue to get closer to that number. So
what percentage of, is it around still 50%?
It's actually a little bit less because those guidelines have become a little,
Okay.
I don't know if strict is the right word, but there's less of a threshold for people to become free and reduced. So
And
then they're used to
reduced means, is there one reduced price?
Yes,
And
yeah.
what would that?
I don't remember that off the top of my head what the reduced price is, but it does reduce the cost of it. You know, maybe it's half. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly what it is, but it does reduce that cost from $261 to maybe, you know, $1.30 or something like that. So just for comparative purposes. So.
So just to bring up, sorry,
No, go ahead.
just to bring up the community members' comment, you know, that it's expensive. I think we all see that in our own homes, but I feel like we're doing everything we can to bring this as low as we can. Because I mean, if you're looking at, if I'm reading this correctly, you know, they're saying that we should or could be $1 more expensive.
$1 more.
Yeah, so therefore we're on the bottom end of this, which it is getting high, but
We are, and
that's
I've
the world we're
done,
living in right
I
now.
don't have that research, but I do have it,
Yeah.
that shows some other schools around us and where they're at, and we're probably on the low end of keeping up with some other school districts. So, like I said, the food costs, as we're gonna talk about later, really hurt the budgets a lot.
I make a motion to approve
Can I
the
ask
school
a
lunch
question?
prices after Andy says that she has.
I just want to ask, is there a benefit to the district for people to fill out the paperwork for the free and reduced, but not qualify?
We have talked about that, how we can do that. I've done something previous
Is
in a
that
smaller
still-
district.
that's-
You know, we did something where we just sent pretty much now it's gonna be a little different this year because we think it's gonna be part of our enrollment process and you'll have it online, but in the previous district, I was able to, you know, we sent the letter home with everybody, sent them home with a confidential letter. Everybody put it back, even for those that didn't, you know, and then we did like a little, you know, extra chocolate milk and some donuts that morning for the parties and, you know, the classrooms that got 100%. And we pretty well told people that if you know you don't qualify, right, NA on it, but the teacher doesn't see those. You know.
So
We try to
is
keep-
there a benefit though, like financially, or is it just that more people who are qualified could get it? Is that the benefit, or is it, if you have everyone fill it out, you actually get something from?
Well, we're hoping if we get more people to fill it out, we may catch more people that need the service, you know, so.
Motion to approve the school lunch prices.
Motion by Ms. Peck,
Second.
second by Ms. Goodwin Clark. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously.
And along with that, breakfast prices right now have been $1.50, and we're asking to go up just a nickel on those to $1.55. So we're not gonna go up the 20 cents like we did lunch, but we do need to increase a little bit. While we get state funding back on breakfast, they don't have a whole calculation sheet. That's why I don't have anything to share as far as breakfast. They don't monitor breakfast other than the fact that we say we serve breakfast and they give us some reimbursement back on it.
Do we have an idea what percentage of our students utilize that service?
It's quite a bit more at Parkview. We probably are well about 50% of our kids at Parkview that utilize the breakfast. And then I would say that kind of goes down to the point where you're in high school, you're at a fourth to a third of your kids are only eating breakfast.
I think biscuits and gravy is a draw.
Yeah, biscuits and gravy would be a draw. And I just know that because I've been at high school in the mornings and seen how much comes from Kingdom Coffee and Casey's and everywhere else in the mornings. So I just know it's less, and we get it's a lot to get.
That scared me. Someone's in the back of the window.
Oh, they're working on the lines. Yeah, so I am asking for a 5-cent increase on breakfast from $1.50 to $1.55.
Do you have a motion to accept the breakfast prices?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Lockridge, second by Ms. Early. Any other discussion on the breakfast prices? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Moving on to bank service bids.
Yeah, usually with every 3 to 5 years, we try to bid out our banking services. And I took those to all of our local banks, so I took it to our 4 local banks. I took that to Bank Northwest, Bank Midwest, BTC, and then Farmers State Bank. Just because I felt like I still wanted to keep it in our communities because of our deposits and having to do stuff, all that. I really feel like we want to keep our money here. So I do appreciate, we had 2 that did the full request for proposals. This is something that Ms. Brownlee actually came up with to kind of, to be able to look at the proposals and make sure they had all the components in there. We actually had our attorneys help write the bid. We've asked before, we've never had anybody else want to bid, so when we asked our bidding company and then we took it out actually to all 4 banks this year, and actually 3 of the 4 bid, but 1 did not have a completed packet. So we only have 2 at this point in time, and that was from Farmer State Bank and from BTC Bank, but both met all the qualifications, both had all the stuff in the packets. One of the biggest things we were always looking at is like the proposed fee schedules and making sure we're not going to get charged extra charges and other things like that. Both were very equal on both of those, and I do appreciate, I think I see BTC back there, so I appreciate you coming to the meeting today. But I think you've had a chance to look at both of these from Farmer State Bank and from BTC Bank. My recommendation is to continue for 3 years with Farmer State Bank, and at that point in time we would be rebidding again. So we had the option to go from 1 to 5, and I think I think 3 is a good number, and so my recommendation is 3 years for with Farmer State Bank.
And that is who we have been with?
That is currently who we are banking with right now. So
Can I ask what the differences were, or what?
they were almost identical. So
So the difference might be that you'd have to transition.
the difference would probably be more of the transition, because honestly the bids were almost I don't even know that there was a difference in the bids. So
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Goodwin Clark. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
I truly appreciate everything BTC does for the
I
school
do
district
100%.
and the community. Their debit card gives money back to the school, the one that has the dragon on it. So I proudly carry it, and so I hope in the future to do business with them.
I want to ditto that comment, that I appreciate the banks in town and just the support they give the district is phenomenal.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to setting the 23-24 budget to action.
yeah, actually I have a couple things here we're going to ask. The first is you have an account, like a register of accounts. It has some of the accounts that we zero out on there every year. We don't carry over a balance on officials. We don't carry over a balance on activities. Some of those other pieces we just don't carry over a balance on, so we ask that we zero those every year. So that would be my first recommendation, is that we zero out the accounts that are listed here so that we can start those back at 0 for this school year.
Do I have a motion to zero out these accounts as recommended by Dr. Robinson?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Goodwin Clark, or second? Second by Ms. Peck. Any other discussion about?
Can you help just explain this
Yes.
table to me a little bit more?
Yeah, so, well, you have your year-to-date and your batch totals. The only thing we couldn't do, and I do have the paperwork, I have some other spreadsheets if you want to see that, is some of these have already started doing new batch entries for next year, and so that's why you see year-to-date current batch entries. So those actually will show 0, but we couldn't show this report without, that's why I have the other spreadsheet if you want to see that. But that shows that we're already starting to get encumbrances. It's adding on to those other pieces on there. So, and then these are just, like I said, accounts that we don't roll over. Like if it's an activity account at the high school, or like maybe we have a teacher's fund account at Parkview, we don't want to zero out their account because they may be carrying a balance. And so these are ones that we don't want to carry a balance and that we don't need to continue to show negative or whatever. So like officials, if you look at that first one, it shows how much we spent on officials for ball games and all that stuff. But we need to zero that out so that this year when we start in August with ball games, everything else, that we're starting back at zero.
And then we'll know exactly what we spent.
Then we know exactly what we spend, otherwise that's just gonna become a running total.
So this isn't like we spent that much more over budget than,
No, this isn't much we spent, that's the total of what we spent.
okay.
And we're just trying to even out the books so that when we start the school year, we're back at zero. Otherwise, we don't zero out officials, then that $45,000 now becomes, maybe 90 by next year, or $95,000, and then we're $95,000 in the hole. So, that's why we zero out the accounts that, like I said, we don't need to carry over. But like the freshman class, or whatever the class, whatever class that your daughter will be, we'll continue that until they get to be seniors. Because, they may do some fundraising as a freshman, and they may do some as a sophomore. They're definitely gonna do some as a junior to get ready for prom. And then as a senior, if there's any money left, sometimes they donate that back, or we put it into another class. We kind of have a graduating class fund that we put it into. But we wouldn't zero those out because those are gonna continue every year, so. But it's the same with any of our, it's the same with any of our other activities down there, which is mainly much of our sports. Cheerleading, pom. Every year we have state fees for all of our kids that go to state, whether that's through music, whether that's through FBLA, CCLA. But again, we're not gonna keep holding that debt. We're just gonna zero it off the books and start over with zero.
I will go ahead and ask this, even though it is, do we still have a senior class gift? Does that still happen?
Every once in a while we will have seniors, or they'll get together and want to donate. The Dragon Head, that's actually, I think the Dragon Head that was in like kind of what used to be the activity entrance before we put the pack on, we kind of had the entrance there. That Dragon Head in there was actually donated. I'm not sure which class it was. I want to say it might have been like the class of 16. That was, it was about the time we had finished the building and they were wanting to do something, and so they liked the one at the middle school, so they wanted a Dragon Head there. So with the remaining class money, they did that. We don't get a lot of it. It usually just kind of goes back into the other class fund, and then we just keep it. And then if we need it for something, or we're short, or whatever, or we, whatever we may need it for, then we put it in there. But it's usually not a lot, because once they finish their junior year, that's their big one, because they're usually getting ready for prom, and their senior year, there's not a lot of expenses, and so there's not usually a lot of money left by the time they're a senior.
That was a thing.
Yeah, but no, there's not every year do we get a senior gift.
So does it, looking at this number, we purchased quite a few new uniforms.
We did. We have a uniform schedule that goes, I'd say every 4 years, but for sure every 5 or 6 years we try to get, like right now football is a little bit different rotation because they had 3 uniforms instead of 2. And so they had to go like 6 years till the next one. But for the most part, we try to get it where every 4 years, our teams are trying to get, the uniforms. So, yeah. I think we've got that all the way. I haven't seen it lately, but I think we had it all the way out to 28, 29, or 29, 30 is what Mr. Wink already has that plan, so that the coaches know, because if like it's for basketball, then they'll need to start ordering those probably in June. I mean, I remember like when we did like the band uniforms, we were 9 months or almost a year ahead on band uniforms, so to do those.
Is that scheduled for that?
We don't do the
projected
band
out?
uniforms every 4 or 5 years.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, is it projected out 10 years? or is that
It's
just-
projected out to probably 29 or 30 with
Okay.
the uniforms, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's projected out quite a ways.
Any other discussion? I think we have a motion on the table.
Second.
No, we already have a motion. I'm pretty certain. Don't we have a motion? We do. Yep. So we're just ready to vote. If everybody's ready to vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously.
Then the other item they'll be asking you to do is to allow us to set the 23-24 budget to actual. That just is something our auditors want us to do. And well, actually, here in less than a month, we'll be getting audited. And that's something they prefer we do, is just set the budget to actual, so. And, you know, like I said, when we kind of set the new budget for the year, it's very preliminary, but even when we had our last meeting in June, we were still collecting, we hadn't even received all of our revenues yet, and we actually received those all the way up to June 30th, we were still getting money. So we're gonna go over a finalized budget as part of the retreat, but we now have those numbers, and we'd like to be able to set those to actual.
Do I have a motion to set the 23-24 budget to actual?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Goodwin Clark,
Second.
second by Ms. Lockridge. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. And
Thank you.
now, athletic trainer, right?
No. Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
We're having a sing this year.
I'm off. So, I have our athletic training contract as part of the board packet. This is something we worked with Cameron Regional Medical Center for quite a few years. We'll actually have a new trainer this year, but this is something we've done with them. I think it's a great asset to have. It's almost anymore, I hate to say it's necessary, but it's with the amount of activities we play, having somebody that's around to be able to be at, football, and I mean, when we're not playing games, obviously they're at practices, they're, softball, they're treating kids that they're hurt, things like that. It's also our first kind of recourse if we think maybe a kid has concussion, and we can go through concussion protocols and do those different things. We can't be at everything, but it's been nice. When we have a volleyball tournament, we have a wrestling tournament, or we have all these Saturday events, they're there, they're covering those things, and it really is nice to have somebody else there with some medical experience and medical expertise if something was to happen. So I'd like to continue that. There was a slight increase from last year, but I still think it's well worth our price, just to be able to keep everybody safe. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't know if we need to make any kind of an adjustment on page 3 under 2.5. It reads, blah, blah, blah. Should the school determine sports will be canceled due to COVID-19, the annual fee will be prorated. Do we still need the COVID-19 thing in there?
Probably not. Although honestly, all that really says is that if something like that was to happen, that they would prorate it, and we wouldn't, they would give us the money back.
So it would be in our favor to leave it in there.
Yeah, that,
If we would have,
yeah. I mean, I don't know that we would be specific as, if there was another pandemic
Right.
and it was called COVID-19, how specific they would be on that contract.
Right. Wording could change to should
Pandemic.
To pandemic or something like
Or
that.
national health crisis.
Yeah, I can probably do that, and I've worked with a former board member on this,
That
so.
covers everything.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, because I don't know that it would be called that.
Yeah,
if we
it
were to
just
have
brings it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, I can,
And just to be clear, this is a hire that they make.
this is the hire that they make.
Yeah.
Now, they usually try to work with us on introducing, talking, and those different pieces. And I know that, like, Mr. Wink has already met her new trainer. I think Mr. Urban's already met her new trainer, so, yes.
so do I have a motion to accept the athletic trainer contract as written and rewriting 2.5 to change COVID-19 to national health crisis / pandemic?
Yes, so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ms. Early. So moved by Ms. Goodwin Clark, second by Ms. Early. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. So, and now we've gotten to where I tried to jump to, well, we both tried to jump to. Board member comments. Would anybody like to go first this afternoon? Go ahead.
I'm just hoping that our teachers and staff and administrators are having a good summer.
Yes.
I agree, so
the summer is flying by, so I know that's a talk in our house. That
Oh, yeah.
I think we've crested over the halfway point, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
So, I saw some frowny faces on that one, but other than that, I hope everybody just enjoys the last stretch of summer, you know, gets to get away, whatever it takes, and then we dive right back into this August.
Any other comments?
My mother, who loved teaching, but the joke in our family always was that as mom and dad would be driving down the highway, if the corn was getting higher, mom would look at it and go, "Stupid corn." So we still joke about that. Stupid corn.
Any comments? I want to let the community know I did attend the summer summit a couple weeks ago down in Branson. And I got to attend just kind of the general sessions, and then I did a president's workshop as well. We talked about AI and education and some things like that. We talked about community engagement. We talked about school safety. And we had, they had decided to have the board presidents join in with the safety officers at the summit for lunch. And they had a speaker there, and it was a impactful event. There was very few dry eyes in that room as people got up to leave. It was very impactful. Lieutenant Murphy spoke in person to the group. And so I think that topic is on everybody's mind right now. It was, I think that when we live in the United States, the incident that he talked about was at a Sikh temple. And one of the founding principles of the United States is that we have freedoms of beliefs. And we have to honor that founding principle and respect one another when we don't have the same beliefs as somebody else. And that was really part of that message that he spoke to during that time. So we did that, and I enjoyed myself. It's kind of weird being down there by myself, none of my other comrades. So next year, maybe some other people want to go. I don't know if they'll do it again next year down in Branson, but it was a good event. Those president workshops are very informative because there's so many different little pieces of helping this aspect. So I'm really grateful that MSBA provides those. There was a lot of conversation. Again, last year they focused a lot on parliamentary procedure. Some districts rotate their presidents every year, some rotate every 2 years, some have a president in this position. You know, it's traditions in different school districts, but everybody feels like they're drinking out of a fire hose and looking for more information on how to better serve their communities. And I appreciate that when I'm sitting in that room, everybody's there striving hard for kiddos and wanting to put their best foot forward for their community. So it's nice to be around other individuals like that. Those conferences are great. So with that, I think I'm going to adjourn our open session. We're going to go into executive session, and we're right at 1 o'clock. And then we'll be in executive session for a little while. The board's also going to have lunch during executive session. At some point later, we'll probably be in an executive session for an hour or so, I would say, because of some of the topics that we're going to talk about. We'll come back out and we'll go into the board retreat. But to go into executive session, I have to have a motion by roll call. So according to state statute, section 610.021, we're going to go into executive session to talk about personnel. We're going to talk about legal and privileged communication with our attorney. We're going to talk about possibly personnel records, and we're also going to talk about the school safety plan. So do I have a motion to go into executive session, so closed session? Moved by Ms. Goodwin-Clark, seconded by Ms. Early, by roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. And Mr. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. With that, I adjourn the open portion of the July meeting. Thank you.
Pam, have you got a minute to talk about community engagement?
Real quickly, because we want to get right into
When
executive
can we
session.
have another meeting? Community
We
engagement.
will be talking about that later in our, we'll be working on our next year's communication plan. I think it's on in our retreat topic, so we'll be talking about some stuff.
Excellent. Do you think this will be a reoccurring thing or a one-off event?
So we were community engagement can look many ways, so I can't really pin anybody in depending on, we're looking at trying to hire a communication director, and I am one of 7, so I can't make that decision,
Okay,
but,
I'm just
yeah.
curious. Okay, thank you.